Welcome back. 15 before the hour now, and we turn our attention to a new twist in the fight between Apple and the FBI. Overnight, the FBI director writing a blunt letter about the dispute as protesters plan to back Apple, assembling in more than 30 cities. Correspondent Pierre Thomas has our report.
Overnight, the FBI director released a letter calling on Apple to comply with a judge's order to help open the iPhone of San Bernardino killer Syed Farouk. We can't look the survivors in the eye or ourselves in the mirror if we don't follow this lead. FBI Director James Comey added, "We don't want to break anyone's encryption or set a master key loose on the land. I hope thoughtful people will take the time to understand that." But Apple is taking to the airwaves to challenge the FBI's reasoning, saying that the privacy and security of millions of its customers are at risk.
There's no limit to what the government could require Apple to do if it succeeds this way.
To make the case, Apple has hired Ted Olson, a former senior Justice Department official whose wife died on one of the planes used in the 9/11 attacks.
This is a Pandora's box. We can't surrender our civil liberties and give the terrorists a victory.
The FBI claims the investigation remains urgent, that the phone might have critical additional clues, including whether others were involved.
But this morning, Apple CEO Tim Cook emailed his employees to thank them for their support, and he calls on the FBI to withdraw its demands and set up a special panel to sort through these issues. He said an Army veteran wrote him, quote, saying, "Like my freedom, I will always consider my privacy a treasure." Clearly, neither side backing down. Pierre Thomas, ABC News, Washington.
Joining us now, Seth Berensweig, a business attorney. He's managing partner at Berensweig Leonard. Among his areas of expertise, tech law. It is great to have you with us. This is a fascinating back and forth that we're seeing between Apple and the FBI. And there's something pretty strong, pretty substantial, undergirding the position each side is taking.
Sure. Well, as far as the government's concerned, they have an emergency on their hands. They need this investigation to move forward. It's been quite a while since the early December attacks. They've tried to break into this phone, and they're just really hitting a wall. So their position is that we need to get in, and we need to get in fast. And they're taking the position, as noted on that report that you just noted a moment ago, they're saying, look, we're not trying to go in and break technology. We just want to go into this one phone, and we could really help prevent the next terror attack. So therefore, we want to go in and we want to get this order. It's no big deal. It's one case. Apple's coming back and they're saying, look, that's not correct. You're not asking for one key. You're basically asking for a master key. You're going to turn this into a breakable technology. It's going to impact privacy and security of all of our users. And as the CEO of Google said this weekend, this isn't about one phone. It's about at least tens of millions of phones. So there's a lot weighing on both sides of the issue.
Does it matter in terms of this ongoing debate, the back and forth, that what the government is seeking doesn't exist? Not that it couldn't be created,
right,
but it's not like Apple's got a key in their pocket and they are, no, I'm not taking it out, I'm not taking it out. This is something that they could create, but it doesn't exist right now, so it would need to be created to dramatically change how this technology has always functioned.
Well, you've just hit the point on why this is a landmark case. This is not a typical, for example, Fourth Amendment case where the government is issuing some kind of a search warrant, a search and seizure case under the Fourth Amendment, saying that we want to have something that is in your possession. They're leapfrogging over the Fourth Amendment by saying, we understand that you don't have it, we understand it's not in your possession, we're going to get a magistrate judge in California to order you to walk into a room and create something that doesn't even exist. And the other thing that's unique about this case is the government's relying on a statute. Now, you would think that in a case so novel that they would have a recent statute to rely on. Believe it or not, the government is relying principally on the All Writs Act of 1789. I kid you not. So not only is this a novel case, a first of its kind, but it shows where there's a huge gap in the law and that Congress really needs to act here, because the court in California based its argument, as the government asked, on the All Writs Act, which is a general statute that basically says that a judge has general authority to issue a writ or an order based upon general notions of justice and fairness.
Because clearly it wasn't based on computers back then.
That's right. They didn't have browsers on their cell phones in the 1780s.
No, they didn't. So we are talking about people who did heinous acts and may have had interactions with others who might be thinking of doing something along the same lines.
Sure.
At a minimum, that generates some amount of public sympathy, public support, if you will, for what the FBI is seeking. Does that draw the parties to a middle ground? Does that make this problematic for tech companies in general, both in terms of the morals, but also public perception, public, the PR?
Absolutely, it could. It's huge pressure. Can you imagine how Apple is in between a huge rock and a hard place right now? On the one hand, they're talking about data privacy and security, but the government's talking about potentially saving lives. The government's saying, look, we don't know when the next San Bernardino attack's going to happen. It's about national security. And so you have this confluence of national security colliding with data privacy in high technology. That's a lot of pressure on Apple. And the pressure was ratcheted up on Friday when the government filed an additional brief to the judge saying, I'll tell you what, we will allow Apple to create the solution and the technology where we can bring the phone into Apple, let them keep the technology, let them apply the technology, and then let them destroy the technology. That is a huge additional pressure lever that's falling on the head of Apple. So there could be a settlement, and there's always the potential for that.
You have to wonder whether, were this thing to go the way the government right now says it would like to see the thing proceed, whether the next case, and there's always the next case, tomorrow, the next day, life continues on, right?
Sure.
It won't be as clear cut. It'll be somewhat murky, but the claim will still be made. You did it last time, and all we want you to do is the same thing here. Is this the San Bernardino? No. But there are issues, there's life, or there's property, or there's fear about something, right? So precedent is part of what makes Apple more than hesitant, quite reluctant.
Absolutely, and you're pinpointing something that the technology community is really, really raising right now. They're saying, look, this is not about one case. It's about several cell phones. It's about tens of millions of cell phones. One of the New York prosecutors, Cyrus Vance, issued a statement recently saying he has at least 175 iPhones sitting in his office where he's waiting to break in to try to find some kind of encryption. You've got 175 cell phones in that prosecutor's office alone. So that's where you're going to have this huge pressure that's going on. And remember, Apple has a huge customer in China. So if the Chinese government, the communist government, is saying this democracy, this court in the United States, they're ordering Apple to do that, there's hundreds of billions of dollars. What would prevent China from doing that as well? So there's a lot of pressure for a middle ground that could be reached potentially in this huge case.
Huge indeed. Business attorney Seth Berenzweig is managing partner at Berenzweig Leonard. I hope you'll come back and talk with us about this issue again. Really interesting conversation. Interesting set of issues as well. We appreciate your time. We'll talk with you again. We'll step aside, though. We are back with a program note right after this.